I'm not going to say 5-0. I hope Australia wins 3-2. If India are to win, it has to be Virat Kohli leading run scorer, but Rishabh Pant will be just behind. From Australia's perspective, I think Smitty's due. Bumrah leading wicket taker for India. For Australia, Nathan Lyon.
I woke in Adelaide this morning, opened the paper. I see a life-size picture of Virat Kohli, and then I see Hindi and Punjabi text. Like, what's happening? Does this kind of sum up what an India-Australia series means right now in Australia?
I think it shows that there's Indian fans all around the world. There's no doubt about it. I think it also shows how much we love India coming to this country and how important and big this series is for both teams. I think India's success in Australia the last couple of tours, no Australian player or past player or Australian fan would like to see. We'd like to see them do well but not beat us. Australia have a real challenge on their hand. I think it's exactly what Test cricket needs. 5 Test matches, I think, is a great decision by both the BCCI, Cricket Australia and the ICC. And I think we really, for the interest of Test cricket, we need to see a really tight series.
When you ask an Australian or someone in England, they say the Ashes is the pinnacle, right? But do you think the Border-Gavaskar trophy is kind of, if not, it's more a case of 1A, 1B right now?
I think the tradition and history of Australia versus England, that Ashes series, will always remain as an Australian or an Englishman or woman. But I think there's no doubt the rivalry, how competitive the cricket is, how competitive both teams are. And then obviously the want to play against India from an Australia's perspective, there's no doubt it sits in the same place now.
It's been 10 years since India lost a Test series to Australia. I mean, you were captain.
Crazy.
That's how long back we have to go. Can you even wrap your head around that fact?
I can, because I've seen how far Indian cricket's come, how good a team they are all around the world now. I think going to India and winning is one thing. Losing to India in Australia is another. And I think that will be fire in the Australian players' bellies this summer, something I'm sure those players won't be proud of, that we've lost the last 2 series. I think you've got to pay your respect and credit to India. It shows how far they've come, that they're known for winning in their own backyard, but they're winning all around the world now.
And just from an Indian perspective, I can say that it is the biggest series. For an Indian, it probably have to go back to 2001 when that rivalry really became what it has now. And you spent a lot of time in India. You were there at the IPL. How often did you get asked about what to expect later in the year?
I think it probably happens when you go to India. Obviously, it's spoken about Australia versus India, that rivalry. But I feel over there, it's always spoken about how we haven't won in India since 2004. I think all Australian fans are aware that we've lost the last 2 series to India here. We don't want to accept that as an Australian cricket fan. We want to be hard to beat at home. We want the public to turn up in their colours and support Australia, because we know we get that in India when we play against them. I think everyone in this country is well aware of India's success. And that's probably why you'll see throughout our media, they're trying to find little chinks in India's armour. They just lost to New Zealand in their own backyard. Rohit Sharma mightn't be here for the first Test match. Virat Kohli's not in the best form. Like they're swimming to find anything they can to make Australia favourites and to give us a slight edge in our own conditions.
Being whitewashed by New Zealand, nobody saw that coming. I don't think anyone in New Zealand did. Definitely not anyone here, because we were all building to this big summer.
We all need to pay New Zealand so much credit and respect. I think they played outstanding cricket. The way they bowled spin, but the way they played spin was exceptional. If anything, I just felt like a lot of the senior Indian players were just tired. They play so much cricket. They haven't had a break. Like, I think a lot of people don't understand the scrutiny that's on an Indian player, even through the IPL, is no different to when you play international cricket. As an Australian player, when you play in your home backyard, you face scrutiny. But then when you travel, it's less. We've got other sports in Australia that takes over the media through the winter. So it's not like what they get in India. Watching some of the shot selection, and Rohit Sharma, I think, is a wonderful captain, very good tactician. Even some of his captains, they just looked a little bit tired. So a week or 2 weeks of no cricket, I think will do them the world of good. If I was an Australian player right now, I wouldn't be looking too much into what just happened against New Zealand. I'd be thinking India's going to come here keen to turn things around and continue their success in Australia.
The rise of this Indian Test team, Michael, rewind 10 years, like when you were captain and you did beat India here. I mean, it was obviously a very emotional series, like in the wake of Phil's passing. Can I take you back to that series, and did you see the rise of India, like just the way they played under Virat Kohli?
It's funny because I think I saw it before I started playing for Australia. I think I was playing domestic cricket or first-class cricket in Australia, but I hadn't made the Australian team. I think I saw it under Sourav Ganguly. I think the intent, the attitude, the toughness that Sourav brought to that Indian team was the start of it. And then I think other captains and other teams have sort of grabbed hold of that. You know, I thought MS Dhoni, again, very quiet in his personality, but tough, aggressive with his captaincy and tactics. Virat Kohli, again, very different to MS Dhoni, but tough character, will say what he thinks on the field, doesn't take a backward step. And then Rohit Sharma, again, different personality, but a very aggressive batsman, and that's his captaincy. Tactically, he's looking to win all the time, so he's willing to risk losing to try and win. So I think a number of those captains have sort of run with that mantle that Sourav created. And now you've probably got an Indian team, and have done since the IPL started, that is a lot more comfortable, doesn't fear playing against Australia as much as they used to, I wouldn't imagine, and certainly don't fear playing in these conditions as much as they used to. And that's probably because how much cricket India is playing. They're travelling all around the world, 12 months of the year, playing in all conditions, and then they're playing alongside some of these players that they wouldn't have got that opportunity to play alongside in years gone by. So I think there's a number of reasons, but there's no doubt this Indian team's come so far in really a short space of time.
You did mention the scrutiny that exists around this Indian team. After that loss to New Zealand, we're hearing reports which often appear when India lose. You played against pretty much all of them, whether it's Rohit, Virat, Ashwin, Jadeja, and you've seen a lot of them in recent years as well. So how do you see them going, and how do you see them responding to the criticism?
I think class is permanent. I'm not a big one for statistics, but I do believe this. Over a long period of time, statistics don't lie. Yes, you need to be making runs or taking wickets to stay in your team. I understand that. Longevity earns you respect and earns you probably a bit more time in regards to being dropped or retiring and things like that. If you think of those two players, Virat Kohli's record in Australia is phenomenal. I actually think his record in Australia is better than what it is in India. I think he's got 600s in 13 tests in Australia. Rohit Sharma probably plays fast bowling as good as anyone in that Indian team. He takes on the short ball, plays pace really well. He doesn't move his feet too much. He's got beautiful hands. So to me, you're talking about two players that come to conditions where they're probably just as comfortable as they are in their own backyard. So I think personally, nobody likes to be criticised, or nobody likes that conversation around, is it time for someone to retire or get dropped? So maybe that will fire them up or inspire them to come here and play their best cricket. I don't think it changes much from Australian cricket's perspective. I don't think they take Virat or Rohit or any of those senior players lightly. I think they know how good they are. I think they know they're both game changers. They're X-factor players that if you let them get in, they can take not only the test match away from you, but the series away from you. So maybe from Pat Cummins and the Australian team's perspective, they should be trying to maximise this as much as they can, and make sure first opportunity to get these two out, you want to get them out early. Little things like that they might be talking about, but they're two very talented players that have shown their class across all three formats. So I don't think they would be that concerned. And I think you know that, playing sport at the highest level, it's not rainbows and butterflies. Criticism's coming your way. So I don't think it's anything that they haven't caught before.
A couple of young guys who have taken the world by storm. Yashasvi, Jaiswal, like I said, he spent a lot of time in the IPL.
Yeah,
how do you
talented.
see him go here?
You know what? I'm really looking forward to seeing him play, because he's another one. He actually plays fast bowling very well. He takes on the hook shot. I just wonder how Australia will attack that. Like, if they'll use that as, we want to see him take it on and we're going to challenge that early in his innings against a new ball, bit of extra pace in Australia, or if they go the other way. So he's a star. There's no doubt about it. He's got all the shots. He's got that intent, that aggressive intent as well. So I look forward to seeing how he goes. You know, the other one that I'm absolutely stoked that he's back playing, because I think it's not only great for Indian cricket, but it's great for international cricket, is Rishabh Pant. I think his story, his journey is phenomenal. He's a wonderful guy, but he's so talented. Probably the last 6 months of Indian cricket, and thinking about this series here in Australia, I think they can even use him further up the order. Left-hander, technically he's very sound against on bouncier wickets and a bit more pace. They could nearly bat him, if conditions are conducive and they see it at the right time, you could nearly bat Rishabh Pant at 4. So it'll be interesting how they work that as well. Like, does Gill bat 3? Virat's 4, you're not going to move him. But what I'm saying is I think he provides a very significant option, in my opinion, for India to play around with throughout that series at the right time. And again, an aggressive player to put pressure back on the Australian bowlers. He will take Nathan Lyon on, like he'll challenge that. He's as big a player in this series as the rest of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we saw what he can do last time around.
And that was the start of it. Like, but even then, he didn't have anywhere near as much experience as he's got now. Like, he's a better player now.
Speaking of someone who will have to bat in a position that he's not used to, have you seen a lot of Nathan McSweeney? I mean, as a proud South Australian, I've talked him up a lot. But
yeah, I'm trying to work out who's claiming what. Is he South Australian or is he Queensland?
We've claimed him.
If he makes 100, he's South Australian. If he gets a duck, Queensland can have it.
Yeah, I can go back there.
Look, I watched the Australia A game against India A because, again, a lot of the communication on radio over the last couple of weeks has been about that opening spot. Do we need to pick a specialist opening batsman? So I tried to take that out of my brain and just watch him bat the other day and look at technique. Watch the top 4, Constas, Harris, Bancroft and McSweeney. Technically, I think he's sound. I think he can open the batting. I think he stays quite side on. So if the ball moves, I think he holds a pretty good position. I think he lets the ball go very well on the front foot. I think he's very still at point of release from the bowler. He's nice and still and balanced, so he doesn't fall across the crease, which could bring in LBW to someone like Bumrah. He hasn't got hard hands early in his innings. So I think technically he's sound to either open or bat 3 or bat 4. I don't think it matters too much. The fact he's batting number 3 for South Australia, that might just be the position that he fits that team. I think he's definitely got leadership qualities. I know there's a lot to happen, before that conversation starts, but he's 25, he's the right age. Everyone in the Australian team's over 30. Captain South Australia. Tactically, when he captained the Australia A game, I thought he was pretty good. So that provides another string to his bow. And whoever faces Bumrah, particularly Bumrah against the new ball, it's not going to be easy. For me, the thing with McSweeney is it's the back of a length delivery that he just seems to push out a little bit. So he's going to have to be really disciplined with his hands against that new ball, especially if there's a bit of extra pace and bounce in WA, in Brisbane, those 2 places particularly. I think Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, you might get away with it a bit more, but those 2 wickets, which are a little bit bouncier, that will be the only thing that I've sort of seen. But they've gone this way. I just hope they pick and stick. I hope they give this young man 5 test matches. Give him a crack. Allow him the chance to bat in different conditions all around Australia. Give him some time to get used to the Indian bowlers as well. Like, they're a good attack. They're not the type of team you can walk in and just think you can play all the shots from ball 1. You're facing, if Bumrah's not the best bowler in the world, he's in the top 3. He's the best bowler across all 3 formats, no doubt. But if he's not the best test bowler in the world, he's in the top 3. So, man, I don't care who you are. If Matthew Hayden's opening, that's a challenge for him, let alone a young kid making his debut.
You spoke of Bumrah being arguably the best bowler across formats. Probably the only one who competes against him is Pat Cummins. And he debuted under your captaincy. Feels like 2011 was a year where a lot of players from this series did make their first appearances. So his development, Michael, since he came back to Test cricket, and what you've seen or made of his captaincy in the last few years?
He's a star. He's so talented. I think he's a better batsman than we've seen so far as well. So don't be surprised if he makes some handy half centuries or a Test century in this series. I think he's that good a batsman. His bowling's got better, but no surprise. The first time I saw him as a baby, as a young kid, he had everything. He bowled fast, he hit the wicket hard, he's tall, he could take the ball away, that brand new ball, but really, I think his greatest weapon is he seams it back into a right-hander. And he's got better. He's more mature, he understands his body, he understands his bowling, he knows what he needs in preparation. He's in his prime right now, Paddy Cummins, there's no doubt about it. And then captaincy, he's taken that on. Again, very different style to a lot of past captains, but he's happy to do it his way. I think tactically, things are very different in the game now. I think you see a lot more fielders on boundary, for example. At the start of a Test match, you see a deep point or a deep square leg. So I think the old style thinking is you don't like that, but I think that's just where the game of cricket's gone. So I think you've got to move with the times as a viewer, as a fan, as a commentator as well. He likes to bowl first, where there's not too many Australian captains that you would see bowl first as much as Paddy. He's very comfortable with that. Again, I don't necessarily think there's a perfect way to captain Australia. I think you do it, you look at your team, you try and get the best out of them, and you work out what's the best decision for winning that game. So, and at the moment, his record's pretty good. You know, they're winning the important games, they're winning the World Cups, they're winning the Test matches. I think this is a big challenge for him and something that he's really looking forward to. I got a sense that he'll be extremely fired up to turn that around. And then obviously the following summer we have England. So the next 2 summers for us are massive. That'll be the pinnacle for Paddy. If he can not only win here this series, then beat England in Australia as well, I think that would be icing on the cake. But for a young captain, I think he's doing a pretty good job.
We spoke about the senior members of the Indian team, Michael, but there are a few long in the tooth, if you want to say that, in the Australian lineup as well. I mean, how much longer do Usman Khawaja and even Steve Smith have left?
Uzi's 38 in December, so to me, if this was his last series, wouldn't surprise me. If he does go on, wouldn't surprise me. I think that'll be dictated by runs scored in this series. Smitty, I think his body injury, Smitty and Marnus, they're 2 cricket tragics. So I think they're going to have to be dragged away from the game to stop playing. And even if they retire from international, they might play for another 15 years. I can see Steve Smith playing club cricket for Sutherland when he's 60. I can't imagine, particularly those 2, going a day without a cricket bat, a cricket ball, or not being around some sort of cricket facility because they love it so much. So I think, again, it's probably going to be form for a lot of these guys. Bowlers, a lot of the time, it's more injury, how your body's coping. If you're winning, like I say, you get away with a bit more. If Australia to lose this series, I have no doubt there'll be changes. No doubt.
And you'd say the same for India not winning here as well. I mean,
maybe. I think it's a bit different for India because it's not in your own backyard.
Yeah, that
I
makes
think
sense,
I think if India were to play, if we were playing India in Australia, if we were playing India in India this series and India lost and we beat them in there, I think there would definitely be significant changes. So that's probably why I know Australia haven't beaten India here the last 2 times, but I expect them to.
There's always a prediction game, so you need to tell me the top run getters for India and Australia separately, wicket takers, and also obviously probably do a Glenn McGrath and say Australia are going to win 5-0.
I'm not going to say 5-0. You know what I really hope? I hope Australia wins 3-2. I hope all Test matches get a result. So I hope they produce good cricket wickets. So where we see somebody win and somebody lose, I don't want to see any draws. And I want the rain to be kind. I want the weather to look after us and stay away because I'd love to see 5 results. And I'll say 2-2 coming to the SCG test.
Ooh, that's tasty.
Leading run scorers, if India are to win the series, it has to be Virat Kohli leading run scorer, but Rishabh Pant will be just behind. From Australia's perspective, I think Smitty's due. I think facing Bumrah against that new ball is going to be hard. So I think the spot to bat is either 4 or 5 for Australia. And I reckon Steve Smith's due. So I'm going to go Steve Smith leading run scorer for Australia if they are to win. Bumrah leading wicket taker for India. I think this expectation around how good he is going to bring the best out of him. I think some people can shy away from that. I don't think he will. I think he'll get better. And if he captains a Test match, I think that'll inspire him to lead from the front with the ball. So I'd be nervous. I'd be wanting Rohit Sharma to come if I was Australia. And then leading wicket taker for Australia, Nathan Lyon. I know India plays spin quite well. They struggled against New Zealand spinners, but different conditions. The reason I like Nathan Lyon here is because of the bounce. He gets a lot of bounce. So I think bat, pad, leg side, slip, and even a leg slip are important players for Nathan Lyon. I think he could be a significant difference for Australia as well.
And there could be the Nathan Lyon Ashwin battle for...
Hope so. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who India picks if they only pick one spinner. Because Ashwin's made some handy runs as well. Jadeja obviously made a lot of runs, but I think that's something they can... That's going to be interesting. They go to left arm orthodox or Ashwin the right arm off. And they didn't bring Kuldeep?
He's injured.
He's injured, okay.
Yeah, so they have Washington Sundar.
Yeah, okay. Who also offers some batting as well.
Yeah. Oh, lot to look forward to, Michael.
Can't wait, man.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Can't wait.
You can see both of us are already at the edge of the seat.
I know.
Absolutely. Perfect. Cheers, Mike.
Thank you, buddy.
Perfect.